נתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. From the beginning. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. Here's the second part. Hamakom yerachem. Hamakom yerachem, yerachem aleihem beyotziah mitzara. אחינו, כל בית ישראל, אחינו, כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. Continuing page 142 with Shalom Aleichem, welcoming in those Sabbath angels. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem leShalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Balchuni leShalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitrem leShalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
No. Does that work? Okay. So I was about to say that there's something about time, that time flows in lots of different ways. Sometimes it feels very fast, sometimes it feels very slow. And on Shabbat, there's this thing that between Shabbatot, and especially right now, I feel like the weeks feel very long. Like there's so much happening every day, and it's draining and it's exhausting. But then we get from Shabbat to Shabbat, and we feel again, oh, here I am again, right? We're back in Shabbat. We're back in this sacred time. And it's so comforting. I've actually heard from a few people who have said that right now it feels like Shabbat is actually the anchor that really sustains them and allows them to just find a sense of bearing in the world, to be able to come week after week back to this place. that flow of time, that sense of returning and coming back, and that sense of kind of, I would say, almost an eternality, that everything always is as it was when we come into Shabbat, that's part of being in this community, in this congregation, the sense of all of you, some of you have been here for decades, and some, this is your first time here tonight, but it always feels this warmth of being in community. And one of the people that has been such a special part of this community these past few years is Ricky Mintz. Ricky is really a beloved, that's why I started this whole thing, because I know it's only been a few years, so 4 years since Ricky moved to Vancouver, but feels, Ricky, like you've always been here. Like you've always been a part of this community. And you moved here with your beloved Ron of blessed memory, and the two of you quickly became part of this congregation. And Ricky made really a beautiful decision to move back to family, to go back to Toronto. And so the Shabbat, we want to honor Ricky and all of those connections that she's made through these past 4 years to really help Temple be such a beautiful community. And I just want to briefly mention that Ricky, one of the ways you've really contributed to this community is through your work running the Soup Schwesters, the group of sisterhood women who make these enormous batches of soup that get delivered with love to people in the community who can use them. So a special thank you for all of that work and endeavor. But in honor of you tonight, Ricky, we want to invite you to lead us in the reading for the blessing of the Shabbat candles. And if you'd like to follow along, it can be found on page 121. Ricky.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light in all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindled light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
So before, Ricky, you go back to your seat, I also wanted to give you a blessing for your journey. Tefilat HaDerech. May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, that you guide Ricky safely on her journey, that you lead her on her path in peace, and that you allow her to reach her desired destination with life, joy, and peace. Protect her from all obstacles along her way, and bestow blessings on the work of her hands, and grant grace, loving kindness, and compassion to her, and in the eyes of all whom she encounters along the way. Baruch atah Adonai, shomea tefillah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who watches over us on our journeys. Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to continue now with our Kabbalat Shabbat. service, bringing in Shabbat, this sacred time that can help us to ground ourselves and reflect on what do we want to do when we have a space to rest. What is that taste of Olam Haba, that world to come, or the perfect world in our minds? What would we do with that time? Who would we be? We'll start page 130 with Psalm 95, Lechu Neranena. And this is one of my favorite melodies for this text. It starts with the words really slowly and kind of builds into this beautiful nigun. So I think you'll pick it up, but when we get to the nigun, we're just going to repeat that a couple times, so you can try it. Pick it up with me.
קדמה פניו בתודה בזמירות נריע לו יאללה לילה יאללה לילה יאללה לילה try it. Yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai 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 lai. Yalla 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 lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai.
Sounded great. We're going to continue Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai, 131.
שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו, ספרו בגויים כבודו בכל העמים, נפלאותיו כי גדול אדוני ומולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. איי די די ילאי ללי לי, 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 ילאי ללי לי. Yalla la la la, yalla la, yalla la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la, yalla la la, yalla la la, yalla la la.
We're going to turn to the top of page 134, Zamru Ladonai, Psalm 98.
זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה. זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה. זמרו, זמרו לאדוני, זמרו, בכינור וכל זמרה, זמרו, זמרו, לאדוני, זמרו, זמרו, לאדוני, זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה, זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה.
Sound beautiful. Turn to 138 now for Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the Shabbat bride.
Oh, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Oh, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 2.
לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נשוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 3.
מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 5.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 9.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
Facing front.
ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. You
can have a seat on the bottom of page 138. and 40, Tzadik Katamar.
Tzadik Katamar Yifrach Ke'erez Malvanon Yizgeh Shetulim Bebeit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenovon Beseva Desheni Merana Nimion Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avlata Bo.
We'll turn now to page 263 and rise together for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ועלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach Leolam Vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. Page 265, we read together the words of Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro Ma'ariv Aravim. B'chokhma poteach she'arim uvitvuna meshane itim umachalif et hazmanim umesader et hakochavim b'mishmeroteim barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo.
אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אתה. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
So we've just entered a new Hebrew month this past week. And for this month, well, you'll see what it is, or you'll hear what it is, because we often change our tune for Mi Chamocha during this month to prepare us for what's coming in the calendar. So let's join together page 270.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'hakodesh, norad ilot osef ele malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokei ayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze eli anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
In case that wasn't clear, it's Kislev, which is the month of Hanukkah, so it's coming soon. Page 271.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ימבר די די די, שבת שבת, ימבר די די די, שבת שבת, ימבר די די די, שבת שבת, שבת שבת שלום. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ים ברדאי, שבת שבת, ים ברדאי, שבת שבת, ים ברדאי, שבת שבת, שבת shabbat shalom.
Please rise as we prepare for the Amida, page 273.
And sisterhood choir members, feel free to join in with harmonies. Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Join together now in Ritzei, page 279.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tegabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael. Yisrael Amecha, El Karov Lechol Korav, Penei El Avadecha Vechonenu, Shefoch Rochacha Aleinu, V'techezei Einenu, בשובך לציון, ברחמים
Every day we're supposed to say 100 blessings of gratitude. It's possible, of course. Certainly within the tradition, there are many times of the day we can say blessings, but if we think beyond just the times of a formula for hamotzi before eating, or for the morning blessings, for all the actions of getting up in the morning, there are really opportunities for blessing all the time. It is what we do when we take something that is ordinary and elevate it into something more holy by sanctifying it with a blessing. If we were to stop and think about all of those opportunities for blessing, it might paralyze us a little bit. There are so many of them. And yet in times such as this, when the days are sometimes heavy and long and difficult, it's precisely in stopping and doing just that, to elevate the mundane into something sacred just for a moment, that allows us to live as sacred human beings. And so we're going to do that, as is always this part of the service, in the spirit of gratitude, as we join together 4 lines from the bottom on page 280, Ve'al nisecha.
ואל ניסך שבכל יום, ערב ובוקר וצהריים, מעולם קיווינו לך, מעולם קיווינו לך, הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך, והמרחם כי לא תמו חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך, מעולם קיווינו לך.
Our prayer for Shalom, page 282.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם.
Take a few moments for silent prayer.
after me. Adonai,
Adonai,
Tzuri,
Tzuri,
Adonai, Tzuri v'goali. Adonai,
Adonai,
Tzuri.
Tzuri.
Together. Adonai, Tzuri v'goali. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see you. Let Atzoni mefi beyon libi. Let Atzoni mefi beyon libi lefanecha.
Invite everyone to turn to page 371. As we're offering a Mishaberach this evening, a prayer of healing for those in our congregation and our extended circles of connection for those in need of healing. This Shabbat in particular, we're thinking of Yosef ben Michael and Miriam, Ian Penn, Carol Plotkin, Howard Eckersley, Stephanie Stanberg, Agnes Roberts Klinghoffer, Marilyn Perrin, Adele, Bruce Howitt, Jason Stanley Fox, Virginia Edwards, Nini Rostaker Shipman, Meir Leb Ben Yosef, Yeshayahu, Natalie Wormelli, Meir Tzvi, Meir Zalman Ben Rachel, Daniel Gottesman, Bill Shaw, Claire Columbia, Carla Zivet, Janet Gelb, David Shlomo Gorney, and Andrea Yarzbiak. I invite you, if there are other people you're thinking of, if you'd like to include them in our Mishaberach, you can rise and share their names at this time.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I want to share a few announcements before my drush. I realize it's my necklace that's clanging on my microphone.
Is that better? Yeah, okay. So I know there have been so many different community announcements and events, gatherings, vigils, marches, etc. I just want to share about kind of what's coming up in the next few weeks. It's become a bit more organized, which is great, so that we have every Sunday at 2 p.m. there is a rally at the art gallery, really focused on the hostages. Asking to bring the hostages home. So that will be continuing, of course, this Sunday at 2 p.m. Everyone is invited and encouraged to be there. And then we were also having more infrequent, large community gatherings as well. And so tomorrow night, Motzei Shabbat, tomorrow night, we are having the second of our community Havdalah gatherings. If you were how many of you were at Beth Israel for the first one? Just a couple. Okay, it was amazing, wasn't it? It was truly one of the most beautiful Havdalah and really prayer experiences I've ever had, with the whole community representing all the shuls, the whole community together. So that will be happening tomorrow night, this time at Beth Tikva in Richmond at 6:30. So I encourage everyone, it's really a beautiful thing to be a part of. To please join us. Also not in the handout, because it just was announced, we're going to do another one of the very large community gatherings the first night of Hanukkah. So December 7th. And this is very exciting. It's actually really the whole community. It's the first time that it is continuing co-sponsored by the Rav and Federation, Unacceptable, and Chabad. So big, okay. So that will be as well at the Nes Gadol, exactly, at the art gallery as well. So that's the first night of Hanukkah, Thursday, I think it's the 7th of December. So just put that on your calendar. A few other things happening. Our Tikkun Olam Go-Go's group, that's so wonderful, has their Voices for Africa concert this week on Wednesday. No, that's next week. This week, yes, this week, the 22nd. I can't believe we're already there in November. Okay. So there are tickets available, and all proceeds go to the Stephen Lewis Grandmothers Campaign. The Men's Club has a wine tasting night coming up. Eastside Jews next Friday night has a Shabbat dinner at the Creekside Community Center. And our Next Gen group has a Shabbat dinner happening on, I don't think that's the right night, but coming up soon. Our Sisterhood's fall fundraiser is happening on the 25th of November, and it's always a lot of fun, and it's a great way to support lots of local charities, as well as to help support groups on the ground in Israel this year. And the cutest announcement of all, our Temple Shalom baby group has an upcoming event on the 29th of November. It's a Hanukkah photo shoot, so can't beat it. That's my favorite thing I get to do, is to hang with the babies. So just be sure to register if there's someone who'd like to come with a baby. Okay, anything else? So one of the things that's become my morning ritual lately is when I open my email in the morning, I always look to Danny Gordis's daily email. Some of you probably also subscribe to that. It's very interesting, and the thing I really like about it is that he puts in lots of photos and videos of what's happening in Israel, and in particular, a lot of things that are not really in the English media, that are Hebrew videos that he has translations of. And sometimes they make me cry, sometimes they make me laugh, and sometimes they're very deep and thoughtful. But what I've been noticing, and some of them that I find very interesting, are actually videos from soldiers. So there was one recently of showing what happens when the soldiers come out of Gaza. When they're in Gaza, they're not allowed to have their cell phones with them. And so when they come out and their commanders are holding like this box. It's like a metal box with all of their cell phones in them. And it shows them taking out their cell phones and most of them calling their mothers. It's very sweet, and to see what they're doing. There was another photo I saw this week. It wasn't from Danny Gordis, but it was floating around my internet algorithm, and it stopped me in my tracks. It was also a photo of soldiers, and this was I don't know exactly where it was, but it was a group of soldiers reading Torah scroll. And I'm not quite sure the circumstance, but conceivably they didn't have a yad, didn't have the pointer to read the Torah. So what did they use instead? A knife, a combat knife. In the photo, it became this flashpoint in the online discourse, which is full of flashpoints. And I know among those who dispute Israel's right to exist, I'm going to leave them aside for this sermon. But what was interesting to me was the conversation about this picture among Jews. Thoughtful Jews, Zionists of all different backgrounds, who were asking, was this picture a symbol of Jewish power or a symbol of Jewish power? I use that word the same time, twice, intentionally. Because I think that now that the terror of October 7th has moved in our minds from raw shock and grief and numb sadness, now that we're a number of weeks into this operation in Gaza, we've all been faced with trying to figure out what is our relationship as Jews to power. In many ways, the image of Tzahal, the Israeli army, standing able and ready to defend the Jewish people after such an unimaginable massacre is exactly the kind of power that we feel grateful to have. In contrast to all of those other times when we were unable to defend ourselves against those who brought Jews to the slaughter over countless generations. And knowing that this army has soldiers who hold their Jewishness so central to their identity that they take time in the middle of the war to pray, to schlep a Torah scroll, along with all of the other equipment that the military organizes, it's something to behold. And at the same time, there's another kind of power that's wielded by any army. And I know that that power is difficult. My own sense of desire for revenge for what happened on the 7th, something that's tied up in my kishkas. We find ourselves not knowing what to do with that and worrying for the civilians in Gaza in the wake of Hamas's terror. And that deep compassion, that too, of course, is very Jewish. And so thinking about that image of the soldier reading from the Sefer Torah, using the knife as a yad, there's a real tension and a real discomfort with that image. Some of you might remember a number of years ago, we wrote the newest of our Torah scrolls, and the sofer, the scribe who came, he was guiding us through the process, and I remember he was teaching us all about the art of sofrut, of this Torah scribal art, and he explained why it is we use a feather, a turkey feather, to write the letters. And he taught that no instrument containing iron or steel may be used in the creation of a Torah scroll, because those metals are used to create instruments of war. So in my opinion, the picture of the soldier with the knife and the Torah is not the one that we should hold up as emblematic of Zionism and power. In fact, it's the most important thing for us to think about now is exactly what we want to be our sense of Zionism and power. So where do we find this balance? I think there's an interesting model that we can consider from an examination of this week's parasha, Toldot. Here we meet the twin brothers, Jacob and Esau. Their personalities are so different, and they have in many ways become the prototypes of human characteristics that have to do with power. Esau, wild, hairy, the hunter, the fierce one. Jacob, the home dweller, the intellectual, the soft one. The classical rabbis used the brothers' characteristics to teach us lessons about human behavior. And actually, the rabbis created an ideal that was Jacob. They said he is who Jews should strive to be: quiet, studious, thoughtful, and emotionally in control. And Esau, the way the rabbis saw him was that his unbridled passion was problematic. Rabbis wrote in Pirkei Avot, "Who is mighty? One who controls his anger." But it's interesting that later Jews saw the brothers differently. And who is the ideal Jew? In his speech to the Second Zionist Congress in Basel in 1898, the Zionist leader Max Nordau introduced the concept of, and this is a great German word, Chris, I'm going to mispronounce it, but Muskeljudentum, a muscular Judaism, promoting the vision of a new Jew, the Zionist with physical might that would bring spiritual strength. That new Jew was Esau. Nordau laid the foundations of a different concept, combining study with sports, with work, with intellectual activity, bodily strength with mental resilience, and harnessing all of that to build the Jewish national movement. It was the antithesis of Jacob, Jacob being the diaspora Jew. As my friend and colleague, Rabbi Josh Weinberg, who's the head of Artza in New York, teaches, muscular Judaism had an outsized effect on shaping the culture of modern Israel, influencing the early chalutzim, the kibbutzniks, and the three of the early IDF paramilitary organizations. Sports organizations that we know, like Maccabi and Hapoel, were created with that muscular Judaism in mind. It's an ethos that celebrates and emulates King David, Solomon, Judah Maccabee, Bar Kokhba, and more. It's the mythic generals of Arik Sharon and Moshe Dayan and Yitzhak Rabin, the legendary farmer warrior poets that offered an image diametrically opposed to that of the diaspora Jew. The new Jew was suntanned, think Paul Newman, even though I know he's not Jewish, but over Woody Allen, the Nebush. Esau was the embodiment of the new Jew, sturdy and ruddy, a man of few words, abrupt and direct. Esau was the Zionist dream. He gave Jews hope to live out, outgrowing that nebbishness. Jacob was the antithesis. It says in the Torah, he was an ish tam yoshev ohalim. He was a mild-mannered man sitting at home. I think there's a lot of significance to both of these prototypes. But we don't live in a world in which the ideal Jew is just one or the other, Esau or Jacob. We have to bring them together. We have to have the values of the two, of Jacob and Esau, of King David and Rabbi Akiva, of Ben Gurion and Abraham Joshua Heschel together. Jacob, who was traditionally held up as an ideal by the rabbis, he deceived Esau. He wasn't all so perfect. And Esau
had his own troubles as well, but later, when they reunite in a couple weeks from now, they embrace. They come together as one. We can't allow ourselves to be just Esau, strutting with military power and reading Torah with knives in our hands. But we can't assume to be a Jacob, unwilling to step into the field and embrace power. That does not ensure a Jewish future either. We've been there before, and we cannot go back. We should never, as Jews, be apologetic about our power, but also commit to never ever lose sight of the softness of our humanity. Shabbat Shalom. I'll invite everyone to please turn back to your siddur to page 586 as we rise for Aleinu. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא,
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מגנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. So we know that Jewish geography makes the world very small. We've all felt that profoundly in these past number of weeks. Smaller than global Jewish geography is Canadian Jewish geography. And when many of us heard the news this week of the death of Vivian Silver, it felt very much part of our family, of our community. But indeed, those links of connection are very close here within our community. Vivian's cousin, Kat McCall, is a member of our Temple Shalom congregation. And Kat was gracious enough to speak and share a few words about her cousin, and she came as well with her cousin Charles, who's going to join her to reflect on Vivian's life before the Kaddish.
First of all, I want to thank Rabbi Brown for reaching out to me directly and encouraging me to come to address the community here. You're very welcoming and kind, and it means a lot to feel supported in this time. My name is Kat McCall. Vivian Silver is my mother's first cousin, and with me here today is another cousin, Charles Greenberg, and his wife, Rhoda Tho. our Papa and Vivian's father were siblings. I think the grief of Vivian's passing is resonating globally because she embodies all of our relatives. She's everyone's Baba, aunt, cousin, friend, and ally. Vivian and that generation of my family carries such strong convictions of their values and everlasting dedication to their Judaism. I admire all of their generation for paving the path for us, a path of pride and commitment. Vivian lived in Kibbutz Be'eri, which, as you know, was fatally attacked on October 7th. Since that date, the world was holding their breath for her safe return. In this time, the world was praying for her, but also getting to know her through interviews with her sons, Yonatan and Chen, as well as her friends. We learned on November 13th, as the rest of the world did, that Vivian's remains were identified in her kibbutz, presumed to be from the initial attack. You don't have to look far to see how just exceptional of a human being she is. Vivian is a pioneer of peace. She moved to Israel from Winnipeg in the 70s and has since been tirelessly working towards peace between Palestinians and Jewish peoples. Vivian respectfully advocated for both Israeli and Palestinian sides, and I'm confident there are many residents of Gaza and people of Palestine who feel the same heartache that we all feel today. Vivian represents a balanced form of activism, which many are unable to achieve, yet many strive to have. This balance means that she leads with humanism and empathy. Tragically, Vivian did not get to see her wish of peace answered in her lifetime. This makes it all the more imperative that we carry her wish in our generations and the generations to come. Charles has had some more recent contact with Vivian and would like to now share a few memories.
Yeah, I grew up with Vivian in Winnipeg. I remember Vivian very well. Our families were extremely close. And I do remember in the mid-1970s when she made Aliyah, and her main purpose was to restart a kibbutz. There was a kibbutz called Kibbutz Gezer, which was where her funeral was yesterday. Kibbutz Gezer was always an important part of Vivian's life. It was a kibbutz that actually began in 1945, destroyed in 1948 during the war, restarted in 1949, and lasted until 1964, and it just ended. There was social discord, it ended. She was one of the people who wanted to go back with a group of others, mostly Americans, and they started the kibbutz. It was a fabulous kibbutz. I went to visit Vivian in that kibbutz. I stayed there. That was a kibbutz that in many ways, Rabbi, this was Jewish muscular, what's the word? Muscular Judaism. This was a kibbutz of athletes, of young Americans. It was a kibbutz of baseball. In fact, people from Kibbutz Gezer played in the Major League Baseball, MLB. It was really a fascinating kibbutz. And she stayed there, Vivian stayed in that kibbutz till 1990. Everyone knows of Vivian's great work, her work with women waging peace, her work as a medical escort right up until just weeks before her death. She was escorting people from Gaza, citizens from Gaza, to hospitals in Israel for treatment and bringing them back. Haaretz newspaper worshipped her. This was a newspaper that wrote about her frequently, and they named, in 2011, Vivian was named the most influential Anglo immigrant in Israel as an award from the newspaper. Some of her work that people don't know about, maybe her earlier work, is what I'm most familiar with. That's where I was in connection. I was in contact with Vivian, and this is a group called NISPED. NISPED is the Negev Institute for Strategies for Peace and Development. It's in the South. It's in the South, and she worked primarily, and she really was the inspiration between empowering perhaps the most voiceless, marginal citizen in Israel is the Bedouin women from the Bedouin community. And her work was great. It was about providing education, self-esteem, and self-worth to women who really were struggling, have always been struggling in the south of Israel. And I teach development economics at the university, and I've been using her work for 20 years, quite frankly. Her work is really groundbreaking. And I got an email just yesterday from Professor, I don't know, some of you may know, Medad Kissinger. He worked here at UBC for a long time. He's a professor at the Negev University, Ben Gurion University in Beersheba, and he just wrote a long email about how wonderful Vivian's work, and Vivian is just so well known in the Negev. So much we've heard this week about Vivian, it's never mentioned, and I think that's really some of her greatest work. Social change in the Negev, creating a shared society for Arabs, Bedouins, Jews, has been really important for her. Finally, I just want to say one other thing. Yesterday, the Haaretz wrote the most fabulous tribute to Vivian in their newspaper. Linda Diane, who writes for the Haaretz, she described the funeral. She described her work. And the description of the funeral will stay with me forever. She talked about what a diverse group of people who showed up. Thousands of people showed up. It was held at Kibbutz Gezer, and that's where she'll be buried. And there were women in hijabs. There were Palestinian men in keffiyeh. There was ultra-Orthodox. There was soldiers, everyone hugging each other. It's a real snapshot, a real reflection of the diversity, really, that we see in Israel. And, you know, I'll just say that she really was such an inspiration, and there's really a need to pick up the work where Vivian left off. I mean, what a great woman. We're just honored to have known her, been part of her life, and we just hope that her pacifism and her desire for peace could someday be realized.
Just in closing, we'd like to ask you to remember Vivian not in her final moments of fear, but a lifetime of collective moments in which she forged relationships between Israelis and their surrounding neighbors. I'll leave you with a few words of hers that reflect her immense and emerging intelligence and devotion to peace. Closing the gap comes from collaborative work and not from struggling against one another. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Thank you for joining us in blessing her memory.
Thank you so much, Kat and Charles.
Vivian's memory will always be a blessing, and we're honored to learn about her from you. As we remember Vivian, we also remember many who have died recently and at this time in past years, and so as we share the names of those for whom we say Kaddish, I invite you, as I read their name, to please stand as you honor your loved one. Yun Shloshim for Asko Annis, Sanford Cohen, Dr. Earl David Hardin, Michael Jacobson, Richard Plotkin, and Vivian Silver. And we mark yahrzeit this week of Sally Superstein Alexander, Lottie Ames, Rosalie Bakalinski, Benjamin Baker, Selma Bregman, Rivka Breezer, Bobby Cairns, Sharon Cherkover, Michael Conrad, Sarah Dine, Bill Durpak, Hal Dornan, Joseph Ehrlich, Joe Fiorentino, Larry Freeman, Nellie Friedrichs, Joseph Gelfand, Betty Brindle Gelfand, Sarah Gellhorn, Sonia Givantmacher, Alan Lawrence Goldberg, Philip Columbia, Irma Gordon, Helen Groisberg, Alex Gimarti, Rosalie Hardin, Devi Herlin, Darren Jacobson, Deborah Carby, Rita Katz, Beverly Klein, Mila McGill, Alan Mandel, Samuel Mednick, Anita Mintz, Shlomo Nachmani, Ann Nyman, Jack Ozer, Samuel Pudovic, Victor Reznikoff, Howard Robins, Pauline Rosenfeld, Benjamin Sheftel, Harry Schulman, Esther Steffen, Leona Steinman, Max Vernon, Jimmy White, Belle Weissman, Harry Weissman, Henry Wong, Mary Nicolina Wormelli, Miriam Zbarsky. There are others who have come to say Kaddish. If you would stand and share the name of your loved one at this time. We stand together beside all of those who mourn. And turn to page 598, waiting the mourners and those who choose to join in these words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yita'aleh v'yita'alal shmei dekudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Amen. Yehi zichronam livracha. May their memories always be a blessing. Amen. Amen. So we're going to remain standing for Kaddish and Hamotzi, and then we'll do our closing Hatikva and Oseh Shalom and invite everyone to join us in the social hall for an oneg, and specially sponsored the Shabbat by the Sisterhood in honor of Ricky. Vayerev vayivoker yom hashishi, vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam, vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa, vayevarach Elohim et yom hashvi'i, vayekadesh oto, ki hivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, Zecher letziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Kol od balev penima, nefesh Yehudi homia, ulfatei mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Hatikva v'shnot haba
חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון בירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון בירושלים. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Shabbat shalom. Imru amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.